Hi everyone. So this is something completely new for me. I hope this serves a good purpose for you all so we get some real good clarity as opposed to being in class. So it's a very different format. So just bear with me. I'm going to be finishing off our section on Africa without our African test, of course. We'll probably do that when we return, or we'll figure out a way to do it online. So basically, we've covered um, the Southern African tribe, the Shona tribe, and I've spoken quite a lot about the people up in Mali, which is all in your notes. For those of you that were not in the class, you missed the drum circle, you missed the wonderful documentary on South Africa, the movie called Amandala, which I told everyone to take good notes because I will definitely be asking questions regarding that documentary and some of the people that were interviewed and the views expressed in it, and also historically what the apartheid was all about and how music helped to collapse that whole ridiculous regime. Anyway, I'm going to basically be going through just the fundamentals of what we've covered in Africa so far. I'll show a few more instruments. I'll go over a little bit the djembe, the drum that we used. And I'm going to basically be going through what will definitely come up in the test. So please take notes. I may or I may not email you later on and request that you send me a point-by-point outline of this lecture to make sure that you have watched it. So I'm going to start off with just some basic history and just want to express that, African music has influenced and affected music all over the world. And at the same time, the whole coast of Africa, which is huge, it's being a huge continent, has also had many other influences like Spanish influences, some Middle Eastern influences, especially in northern Africa where there is a huge Muslim population. So there are a lot of influences, cross mixes going on. American popular music would not be the same without its African influences. So in your notes, I have a list of some of the musics that have been very highly influenced by African music, or rather the sentiment of African music. We can't go without showing the importance of jazz music and how jazz music in its spontaneity and its the focus on improvisation and creativity is really highlighted, and that's very much part of the African experience or African expression of music. I will also be sending you a link to some of the YouTube videos that have to be watched before we do a test. I'll be asking you questions about that, and you will have to write a paper regarding an interview with one of the most famous kora players today. She's doing some amazing work to promote her culture and her music. She's a very interesting person. So there are two interviews that she describes what she's doing and about her history and a little bit of her playing. So I'll be sending that out in a link or through an email. So what you've studied at school, we always think of a very ancient civilization. We often even don't think that it's Africa, but that of course is Egypt. So in Egypt, in the hieroglyphics and in the pyramids and in historical records, we know that they had harps. So it seems like the use of the harp is a very common thing in North Africa. So that is one of the main civilizations. We're not covering Egyptian music. We will be covering a little bit of that in Middle Eastern music. But if I ask you a question about what were the great civilizations in Africa, the two main ones would be Egypt, of course, and then the second one would be the Malian culture from Mali, which Mali as an empire was much bigger than the present-day country of Mali. They extended further east and also extended all the way to the coast, actually all the way up to the Ivory Coast and the west coast where is Guinea and Gambia and Ghana and those countries are all in that area where the Malian Empire flourished. And the people that we spoke about that are the musicians from that area are the griot or the Jale. They speak French today. Modern day Malians speak French, so often when you see interviews with them, you will see that they often are speaking in French. The most famous kora player today, besides the woman that I'm going to be sending a link to, is Toumani Diabate. Toumani Diabate. So I'll be sending that out as well. You must watch the interview with him. You must watch some playing. You need to know exactly what the kora looks like. So another big empire in southern Africa that is very, very rarely spoken about or mentioned is in southern Africa, the Zulu tribe, with a very famous warrior chief called Shaka Zulu, a very historic figure. They also have a unique system of music, of which we're not going to be getting into, but you need to know these three main civilizations or empires, you would say. I would say Shaka Zulu was not necessarily a huge empire, but a very important cultural thing for southern Africa. So, besides historically thinking about how people moved around Africa, remember I keep on insisting the fact that people often think that before we had cars and planes, people didn't travel or move around very much. But there was trade routes all over the coast of Africa, all around the coast, all the way going up to Spain, Portugal, on the east coast, all the way up into the Middle East, and all the way to India. So there was always this continuous exchange of ideas. The other thing is also the Mediterranean Sea is not a very big ocean, and North Africa is a stone's throw away from places like Italy and Greece. Spain and Morocco are right next to each other. Takes just a couple of hours actually to get there if you go by boat from Spain to Morocco. So I'm just emphasizing the importance that you understand that there was a lot of movement going on, a lot of exchange of goods, a lot of exchange of ideas, and also musical exchanges. So other ways of movement besides the coastal routes around Africa was also the rivers, extensive rivers, the Limpopo River down south, the Nile River, of course, up north, and then also the northern part of Africa, which is quite a lot of desert as well. People traveled by camel. So those are the main things. People traveled by boat along the rivers, sea routes along the coast, and camel routes. That's important for you to know. That'll come up in the test as well. Okay, talking about Southern Africa and the use of the thumb piano. It's called, the main tribe that uses that is called the Shona tribe. They are predominantly found in the country of Zimbabwe. So you have it in your notes, a description of what the Shona ceremony is all about. Remember, in the essay questions related to this, you need to emphasize that in all over Africa, the relationship, the family relationships, and also people's connection to their ancestors is very important. Reverence and respect for one's ancestors is very important to go ahead in life, because they believe that by having this context of knowing where you come from is very important. So if you don't know where you came from, or you don't know who your ancestors are, you can't go ahead in life. So that's very important. And also the belief that actually we can get in touch with our ancestors through trance, getting into trance. So the Shona ceremony is related very much to getting in touch with the ancestors, either the ancestors in the form of a chief of a tribe, or a sangoma, a healer. So the idea is that in this ceremony, people go into a trance and they experience one of their ancestors who gives them guidance in whatever the group of people or the tribe